Yeah, college football. Oh, nice headline. Blowouts and bad choices. I had great expectations. Did not pan out the way I thought it would. Each of the games was really lopsided. Period exclamation point. Nobody's talking about the games. Everybody's beefing about what happened in the aftermath of the selections, and this is the end result. Let's just go team by team. Ohio State destroys Tennessee in their first game. 3 touchdowns in an 11-minute span. Buckeyes superior. They were obviously focused in. They had 2 weeks to prepare for what the Volunteers had to do. Tennessee's quarterback was just overwhelmed. Tennessee lost its running back the second series in, never really came back. Buckeyes just bombed them. Here's the burning question, John. Where the hell was this game plan? Where was Chip Kelly 2 weeks ago when they lost at home to Michigan in the plant the flag post-game brouhaha? I mean, this looked like a drastically different Ohio State team than the game they played prior, the ugly loss to the Michigan Wolverines. What do you think about Buckeyes?
I just think that a game against Michigan, it's so emotional. It's the big rivalry. And so they probably just froze a bit. But now we're seeing the real Ohio State. And I was curious about Tennessee. They were the sort of the unknown team of the 12, but, Ohio State rolled them.
Penn State just stomps SMU. 2 picks, 6 touchdowns in the first quarter. Kevin Jennings just got run over. I kept saying all season long, athletically, this was the best Penn State football team I think I've seen athletically, offense, defense, special teams, going back to the Paterno era. They really, really played well. Penn State right now is a very scary side. Your thoughts on what Penn State did to SMU?
Wasn't the fan base there was fantastic. I mean, they were so fired up there. And my buddy and I were watching the game, and we were wondering, is Happy Valley like the general community, or is it the name of the stadium, or what is that?
Well, it's Beaver Stadium. Happy Valley is the region north of Harrisburg into the mountains.
Okay.
It's just called Happy Valley. I broadcast from there. It's unique. It's eclectic. It's got its own lifestyle and personality. It is mega college town. But on Saturdays, 102,000 wearing white.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. But Beaver Stadium, that must go back to like a history of the beaver pelts and all that. But it is confusing about the stadium name.
Yeah. Third game, Texas Clemson. I thought it was going to be a better game, a more balanced game, but it was not. Longhorns are really good. Quinn Ewers, 2 running backs went over 100 yards. Their defense is their defense. Although I would have to say this, Cade Klubnik, the young quarterback for Clemson, he threw for 336 against a Longhorns football team. But Texas Sarkisian has flipped that thing in about a 2-year span. That's a true national power at Texas.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot more of a lopsided game than we expected. I was rooting for SMU to show something, and it's just nothing was there.
Notre Dame wallops Indiana. Battle of the Hoosier State. Touchdown Jesus beat the frauds. That's what one of the headlines read. Notre Dame was dominant. Indiana played as poorly and got pummeled as badly in this game as they did in the final game of the season against Ohio State. But to call them a fraud, that's not fair because they had 11 wins to start the campaign. But man, Notre Dame whacked them in every conceivable way. 98-yard touchdown run right at the beginning of the game. Riley Leonard throws for 205. They just manhandled them. 393 yards total offense for those guys. That was pretty impressive, Notre Dame. And Indiana kind of all caught up to them. They're not a national power in terms of national powers.
Well, think about how big of progress Indiana made. I mean, they took a huge leap forward. That coach, if he sticks around, I think can start building that program because they had, I think, the largest margin of victory on average in NCAA. But clearly, that was against teams not in the top 25.
They did not beat a top 25 team all year.
Yeah, exactly.
Strength of schedule became an argument. Okay, so nobody's talking about the games. They're talking about the selection process. They're talking about what the College Football Playoff Committee needs to do to make this better or fix this as if something is really wrong. John, this is on you. You're the one who was screaming, let's go to 12 teams. And I kept saying, you go to 12, you're going to have blowouts. We're going to have 50-7 games. Well, we had 4 blowouts here. TV ratings. They got their ass kicked
Really?
by the NFL. I was really
by the
surprised.
NFL, yeah.
TV ratings. Ohio State had the biggest, 6.3 million for their game. That's a brand issue. Second biggest one, Notre Dame, 5.7 million viewership. Third one, Texas, which stunned me, only 3.6 million. Maybe it's because people just don't like anything related to the state of Texas. And the least watched game was Penn State, 3.1 million. But that was Penn State, that was SMU. Those are regionalized things. So they didn't do well in head-to-head competition against the two NFL games on Saturday. Here's the statement. Here's the question about we have to change this. Everybody's dissatisfied. Like I said, John, nobody's talking about the games. They're talking about the playoff committee and why did you do this, etc. So the Power Four conferences, champions, all got in. They got the buys. Instead of that, there's a theory. After you select the 12, rank the 12, seed the 12, rather than just give automatic buys to the conference champion. In essence, they're saying Boise State's equal to what we just saw. That's the big issue. They're going to evidently argue about that. Second item, although the games were sold out, there were 3 of the 4 games had crowds over 100,000. They're screeching that it's a playoff and it's unfair to the team that has to go into Happy Valley, team that has to go in to play at Austin. They want neutral sites. So there's a second arguing point there. And now the third arguing point, okay, so now we're down to 8. The third arguing point is before we go play the second round, they should reseed who's still alive. Everybody's saying, gee, isn't it a shame Oregon has to play Ohio State in the second round? That if you seeded it. So, John, you're judge and jury. You wanted this bloody thing to go to 12 teams. So after the selections are made, should they seed them? Or do you give the conference champion the bye? After the selections are made, should they reseed them after the opening round of the playoffs? And do you like neutral site versus you got to go into somebody's angry stadium and play?
Well, first of all, I think they should have expand this to 16 or even 32 teams.
Oh, they'd be barking and bitching even more.
Yeah, I mean, make it bigger. I mean, the NCAA March Madness already has the formula. They seed them going in, and they don't reseed them after each round, which I wouldn't agree with. Just seed them going in. That was a good suggestion. I like the neutral site suggestion. I still think that the lower tier bowls would be perfect for these quarterfinal or round of whatever. The early games could be in the Tangerine Bowl or the Holiday Bowl on a neutral location. But I was hoping there would be at least one upset on Saturday. That didn't happen. So now I'm really rooting for Boise State because I love the idea of these smaller programs getting in because I'm sick and tired of Alabama and Ohio State every friggin' year.
I think a lot of people were getting tired of the same old of the marquee teams, but should we not be realistic that the 85 scholarship players at Ohio State or Notre Dame or Texas or Penn State, those 95 are better than anybody else's 95?
Oh, yeah, of course they are.
So you can't have, this is not the reinvention of March Madness because you're only playing 5 basketball players. Here you're playing your top 22. They're all 4- and 5-star guys against somebody who's not quite equal to you. That's why the disparity occurs.
Well, I will always remember the Boise State-Oklahoma game with the hook and ladder. That was 10 years ago?
It's once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, that was good stuff. So just follow the format. Basketball is already laid out. It's proven. It works. Just do that, and I think we'll be fine. And by the way, if you expanded it to 16 or 32, then teams like Alabama that were complaining that they didn't get in would have gotten in.
So Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Miami are really barking 2 days after the playoffs saying, see, we should have been there.
Yeah, make it 16, and all 4 of them would have been in there.
Oh, John, you're expanding this way too far.
No.
Oh, so you got an opinion? Hey, you're a college football fan. Blowouts, bad choices, or just the way it is because you got a couple of teams that are in their own galaxy, led by the Oregon Ducks and the ones that obviously marched through the first round. Fans Forum chat box is open.